The first time I saw her, she was perched on the edge of the observation deck aboard the Starlight Vanguard, her legs dangling over the void of space like she belonged to the stars themselves. I had been assigned to the ship's engineering division, my days consumed by humdrum maintenance checks and the occasional plasma core recalibration. She, however, was nothing like anyone I'd ever encountered. Her name was Lyra, a diplomat from the distant Andranian system. Humanity had only recently established contact with her people, and tensions ran high. She was a prominent figure in the negotiations for interstellar trade routes, and yet she moved through the Vanguard with the casual grace of someone who owned the cosmos. I approached carefully, trying not to startle her. She didn't seem bothered, her amber eyes fixed on the endless expanse outside. "Don't treat me like a pet," she said suddenly, without even turning around. Her voice was firm, yet it carried an underlying vulnerability I couldn't ignore. I froze. I wasn't going to. I stammered, though the truth was, I didn't even know how to approach someone like her. Lyra chuckled softly, a sound like wind through crystal towers. "Good. Because I'm not someone to be handled, prodded, or entertained like a curiosity." I nodded, embarrassed. "Of course. I just wanted to say hello." She glanced at me then, for the first time letting her gaze linger. "You're human," she said simply. "I should be cautious." I swallowed hard. That single acknowledgement felt like an invitation, even if she didn't intend it as one. Days passed and our interactions grew longer, albeit tentative. I discovered she loved quiet moments in zero gravity, spinning slowly through corridors, letting her silvery hair float around her face. She was sharp, clever, and sometimes frustratingly distant, but there were cracks in her armor, moments when her laughter revealed a side of her that was almost human. One evening, I was called to repair a malfunction in the ship's life support systems. The conduits hummed with electricity, the lights casting eerie shadows along the metallic walls. Lyra appeared out of nowhere, her presence silent, yet commanding. "You're working too hard," she said, stepping closer than I expected. "Even humans aren't machines." I have to make sure the crew survives," I replied, trying not to let my pulse betray me. Her gaze softened, and I realized she wasn't judging me. She was worried. She extended a hand, almost instinctively. "Then let me help," she said. I hesitated. Accepting help from her felt like a breach of some invisible code, but I couldn't refuse. We worked together in silence, our movements synchronized. When the repair was complete, I expected her to leave, but she didn't. Instead, she leaned back against the wall, her eyes closing briefly. "You know," she murmured, "I'm not used to this. Comfort. Company. Someone who doesn't fear me." I looked at her, unsure what to say. Her admission hung between us like fragile glass. "You don't have to be alone," I whispered. She opened her eyes slowly, studying my face. Then, without warning, she leaned against me. Not aggressively, not with demand, just with quiet trust. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between us. Weeks turned into months. The Starlight Vanguard traveled further into uncharted space, encountering rogue asteroids, alien warships, and nebulous phenomena that defied every law of physics we knew. Through it all, Lyra and I became inseparable, not in the romanticized way some imagined, but as allies, confidants, and something deeper that neither of us dared name. Yet the shadow of politics loomed over her. There were factions in her home system who would never accept her closeness to a human. She would be forced into arrangements, alliances, even marriages she did not want. And as much as she tried to appear unshaken, I saw the weight she carried. One day, during a routine scan of a distant star cluster, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared. I raced to the control deck, finding Lyra at the helm, her usual poise replaced by sharp urgency. "They've detected us," she said. "Pirates. And they're armed with graviton disruptors." I moved to her side, my hands hovering over the controls. "We can outrun them," I said, though even I knew the odds were slim. Lyra's fingers danced over the console, her mind calculating trajectories faster than any computer. Yet even in this chaos, she allowed me close, letting my hands steady hers. "I trust you," she said quietly. And somehow, that trust became our shield. We maneuvered through the asteroid field, our combined instincts guiding the ship with impossible precision. When the pirates' weapons fired, we barely escaped, shields flaring as rocks and debris collided around us. Afterward, Lyra sank into the nearest chair, breathing heavily. I stayed by her side, offering the small comfort I could. She looked at me, and for the first time, the walls she had built around herself seemed to crumble. "You said not to treat you like a pet," I said softly. She smiled faintly. "I never wanted a guardian, just someone who sees me." "And now?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Her gaze met mine, unwavering. "Now, I find comfort beside you." The days that followed were quieter. We didn't need words as much. Presence was enough. When the crew gathered for meals or mission briefings, Lyra and I lingered at the edges, sharing subtle glances, brief touches, the kind of intimacy that spoke louder than declarations. One night, as the ship drifted past a violet nebula, Lyra floated over to me, her hand brushing mine. "Do you ever wonder," she asked, "what it would be like if the galaxy didn't matter? If we could just be?" I took her hand fully, holding it. "I do. Every day." She laughed softly, the sound mingling with the hum of the engines. "I never thought I'd let anyone in. But with you, I don't feel like a diplomat, or a queen, or anything anyone else expects me to be. Just me." I leaned closer, my forehead resting against hers. "And I'm grateful," I murmured, "for every moment." She closed her eyes, sighing. "Then I suppose we're both lucky," she said. From then on, we navigated the stars as partners, not in the political sense, but in the quiet understanding of shared existence. Danger still followed us, as it always would in uncharted space, but facing it together made all the difference. The real test came months later, when a massive gravitational anomaly threatened to engulf a nearby colony. The Starlight Vanguard was the closest ship, and we were the only hope. Lyra and I coordinated the evacuation, our synergy uncanny. Each order we gave, each maneuver we executed, was a dance of precision. When the last transport ship cleared the danger zone, the anomaly collapsed in a cascade of energy, shaking the Vanguard violently. I braced myself, feeling the heat of the energy surge against the hull. Lyra grabbed my arm instinctively. "I'm not letting go," she shouted over the roar. "I wouldn't let you," I replied. When the ship stabilized, we both exhaled, laughter mixing with tears. Around us, the crew cheered, but we didn't need their approval. In that moment, nothing mattered except the knowledge that we had each other. Months later, in a small cabin aboard the Vanguard, Lyra finally let herself relax completely. She curled beside me, her head resting against my chest, her hand entwined with mine. The galaxy stretched beyond our viewport, infinite and wild, yet inside that room, there was stillness. "You trust me now," I said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I do," she murmured. "And I never thought I would. Not with anyone." "You're not a pet," I said softly. "No," she replied, her voice barely audible. "Just someone who found comfort beside me." And in that quiet embrace, I realized something profound. Love, trust, and companionship didn't need grand declarations or heroic gestures. Sometimes, it was found in the simple act of being present, of being there for someone, even a queen feared across the stars. The stars shimmered beyond the viewport, distant and eternal. Yet for the first time, Lyra and I felt something equally boundless, a connection that no force in the galaxy could sever. And for the first time in her life, Lyra allowed herself to rest, not as a diplomat, not as a warrior, not as a figure of awe, but simply as herself. Beside me,